Guys, thank you very much for watching our full episodes on YouTube. We really appreciate it. We've noticed that a bunch of you are not subscribed to the channel who watch the videos, so it would really help us if you would subscribe. Helps us drive our numbers up, and also turn on notifications so you know when a new episode goes live.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
Hello, I am Francis, and he is Giulio. We're Oops the Podcast. We're back for another episode. G?
We are Oops the Podcast, and we are back for another episode.
Good to be back with you.
Good to be back for another episode,
I look
baby.
forward to hanging out with you and talking. You know, we always text each other and say, boy, do we have a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like we're taking our friendship slow.
we save good morsels.
Yeah, we save morsels for
the
each other.
podcast to make sure that our reactions to each other are authentic.
This is true.
And I wanted to talk to you about this. You know, when you wake up in the morning, is the first thing that you do, you grab your phone?
Usually, yeah. And I'll tell you what, I for a period of time had made an initiative based partially on what you had said to me, but like to go phone free for like the first 20 minutes of the day.
It is world changing.
It's world changing to not like roll over, immediate anxiety, immediate check. What did they say? What did they reply? Are they mad at me? Like there's just so much shit.
Nobody ever woke up, picked up their phone and saw that they had inherited $100,000. There's never good news waiting to start your day.
It's rare.
Do you know why? Because good things don't happen in the middle of the night. Do you know what I mean?
So I'll tell you, so to that point, I get direct deposits sometimes that I'm not expecting.
Okay.
Like but it ends up being a negative thing, and I'll tell you why. Because say I do a commercial or something and I'm sitting there, I'm waiting to get paid. I'm like, oh, any day now. And I'll wake up at like 4 a.m. and the thrill of money potentially being in my account makes me check my phone, and then I can't fall back asleep. Further reason for why you got to put the phone in another room if this is a problem for you.
Yeah.
Which was your thing.
I have to say, I, out of nowhere, have just all of a sudden, it's become much easier for me to wake up at 7 a.m.
Dude, me too.
I don't know
Let's
where
talk
this
more about
came
this.
from, but first of all, I'm going to bed early as hell. I gotta be honest
How
with
early?
you. Lights have been out 10:45 at the latest.
That's pretty early.
It is very rare that, well, not rare, but more often than not, the light is out before 11, and it's not close.
But isn't it nice?
It's the best thing
It's
ever.
incredible. I was just thinking about Ben Franklin, dude. Whenever
Well, he didn't sleep.
he didn't, what happened to early to bed, early to rise?
Yeah, but he notoriously he slept like 4 hours a night.
God damn it. That fucks me up when like you hear a saying from like a great person and then you find out it was bullshit.
I think it was him.
He was just up all night jerking it.
I think he was somebody who went on very, very little sleep, but I'm not 100% sure. I think that's the case.
I mean, I feel like you have a lot of forefather knowledge.
Yeah.
Founding. Is forefather even a word?
Our
That's what I thought.
forefathers are just people
Okay,
who came
forefather.
before us.
Okay, yeah.
But the founding fathers, yeah, Franklin is
Forefather as well as a founding
credited
father.
as one. But
Fucking Franklin.
everyone also mistakes him for being a U.S. politician himself, and he wasn't.
Interesting. Yeah, it's true. He
I
was
don't
sort of
think.
like
Well, he was the ambassador to France, I think.
he was like the Steve Bannon of the 18th century. He just had no formal position. He's just around.
There was some weird stuff with him. I don't know how sweet he actually was. People give him a lot of credit, but he did some funky stuff, man. I don't know.
Dude, it just makes you wonder. Like, does being a good guy get you anywhere in
Yeah.
this life? People remember what you achieved. They don't remember that you fucked over fucking Seymour Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
know?
That's right. And speaking of, good guy stuff, so to this point of waking up, right? Sometimes I'll wake up. The other day I spoke to you.
Dude, you called me early. It felt great to be chopping it up early in the
I
morning.
know you're up and it's good. I call you in the morning. I called you in the morning, and I know we're gonna get to the point of the conversation, so you and I have the luxury of a few minutes of just
chopping it up,
wading through the nonsense. Let's ease ourselves in. And I said to you, you were like, hey, what's up? And I said, do you ever wake up and immediately the first thing you do is you read a bad email and it just ruins your day? There's no coming back from that.
There's no coming back.
There's no coming back from that. I am not equipped that early in my day, before I've had my coffee, before I've had my overnight oats, before I've had my shower, all those things, to be mentally resilient enough to process a negative email the correct way. Right? You're too raw. You've just tumbled out of bed like a baby deer falling out of a womb. Your immune system is not set up yet. You're prone to hackers and malware.
You're too raw.
You're too raw. You're too fresh to the world.
Hello, world. And
Yes.
you're just immediately getting fucked.
You haven't regrown those outer layers of skin that armor you against the
experience.
Horrible.
You have none of it.
Yeah,
you
things
wake up
of the
fresh
day.
and easily manipulated.
Yes,
bright-eyed.
At the very least, it will affect you more than it should. And boy, I remember that, and it just set the tone. It set the tone for the day, and the whole day was an uphill battle.
Yeah,
the whole day was an uphill battle, and it basically was me holding on until I could have my half beer and my couple puffs of my weed vaporizer to really
sweet
settle
Chiba.
back in for that wonderful sleep.
Dude, totally. It's funny. Like here's the question though: is this a bad email that you were anticipating, or is it like a bad email that you weren't anticipating? They're two different things. Like if you send a nasty email and you're going to get some curt response, and you're just waiting for it. You go to bed without getting it, and you just wake up and you quickly check your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my God, it's him.
Yeah, that sucks. Then
Dear Francis, fuck off.
You're
like,
bleeding
oh,
one day into the next. You're carrying over a stench. That's terrible. I think this one caught me off guard. I don't think I was expecting it.
Which is just as bad in its own way. But dude, I think that this is a reason. I think you have talked about this before to me, and it's totally true. And I've tried to really put it into my routine. But it's like, if there's a contentious situation, just hopping on the phone is always the move. My girlfriend says it too, actually. It just really, the text, there's too much
totally.
You just got to hop on the phone.
Get on the phone.
And it makes it, not only is it easier to understand what's actually going on, but both sides disarm a bit.
They do, and
it's much more pleasant.
Typically, the offended other party is grateful that you've made the effort to either call them or FaceTime them.
Totally.
They take that as a peace offering.
Totally, man.
So everyone becomes friends again.
Like in those moments in a TV show where somebody fucks someone else over so bad, and then the guy shows up and he somehow squashes it.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a TV show. He's like, listen, man, I know. And I kind of just envy that. I'm like, that's the way we need to be living our lives.
Conflict resolution.
Conflict resolution. Do what you got to do. Stop being a pussy, and then deal with it.
Dude, it's the equivalent to basically when you take on these long, dragged out text battles that are petty and passive aggressive and filled with half meanings, where you basically send vague texts for the intention of mind fucking the recipient.
Fuck with him. This'll fuck with him.
Like they say something mean to you and you just write back LOL. That's my favorite, dude.
That's pretty good.
Someone says something really horrible to me and I just write back LOL.
Dude, you're funny because you, on one end, you absolutely hate dealing with these situations, but on the other end, you sort of are ready to go for them.
Sometimes
it's odd. Sometimes you're like, fuck this guy, and you have no problem being like, fuck off. And then other times someone indicates, even you may not even be right. They indicate that they're upset and you were shook as fuck.
So I know the moves. I know the correct moves to make, but that doesn't mean that I feel good about them.
Interesting.
So I know the right move to play in these games, but internally I am it's a roiling, flaming war within me of emotion.
Yeah, it's tough.
But all they see is the text, which is the correct play. So as long as that's the whole key. If you care about winning a text battle, you just can't show emotion. You can't show that you've been moved to anger or
Right.
frustration or anything. The first person to send a steaming emoji loses, basically.
Yeah. To all our listeners, my challenge to you this week is to tell someone to fuck off. It feels really good. And, nothing's going to happen. What are they going to do? They're going to kill you? They're not going to do shit. Tell someone to go fuck themselves. You'll be amazed at how good it feels.
Here's another thing you can do. If you're in a text battle with somebody, and by the way, I don't have read receipts turned on for anybody just because I don't want people to know. I'm not great at responding to text sometimes. So I don't want people to know that I've read it and then moved on with my life and forgotten. But one thing you can do is mid-text battle, you can turn on your read receipts and then they will just see that you read their text and didn't respond and you're icing them.
That's sassy as fuck, dude. That's so sassy. If you did that, I'd be like, did you just turn on read receipts?
Oh, is it read receipts?
And then you have just read it. And then to that, you have read it. That is the answer.
That's funny. So you say read receipts.
I say read receipts.
I think I've heard it both ways, and I don't think that there's a correct way.
Yeah.
But I've always thought it was read receipts. So, dude, I have to tell you something. I think this is great. But my advice to anyone listening would be really make an effort. I've said this before, keep your phone in a different room. You don't necessarily need to do that. But when you wake up in the morning, your alarm goes off, get out of bed, unplug it, get in your shower or brush your teeth or get up to your kitchen counter and make your coffee and your oatmeal or whatever your breakfast before you start scrolling. If you can get 4 to 5 steps of your day underway before you dive into that, I'm telling you,
dude, it's
something about it, or you've got momentum.
And dude, it gives you yoga brain.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know for our yoga people who listen to this podcast, but that feeling you have after you do yoga, where you have all this space in your brain to think and breathe. It's the same thing. It gives you that same sensation.
Yeah.
So definitely, dude. So it's funny. My parents got me this GQ sampler thing for Christmas, sort of a random gift. I think they asked my girlfriend what to get me.
Is it clothing or is it?
It's facial products and all that kind of shit.
Oh, fun.
Pre-workout. I don't know. It's a variety thing. Some of them are great. Some of them I'm never going to use this. But one thing that was in it was this thing called an impact deck. Have you heard of this?
No.
Dude, I made a little song for him, the impact deck, the impact deck. Anyway,
I'm curious about the song.
There's cards, and each card challenges you to do a thing that day or something. It's ask someone for help when you if you need it or something. I'm this is kind of cool.
That's fine. Have you employed the questions?
No, because I feel that I am good enough at sort of analyzing my life. I'm sure there are plenty of places where I can improve. But if I'm in a tough situation, I can challenge myself to be you don't want to do this, but you should. I feel pretty good about that. But I might go to the impact deck. But it's an interesting thing if anybody feels like they need something
I'd be keen to read some of those impact deck cards for sure.
I'll bring them.
Chris, what do you got?
There's this other thing called We're Not Really Strangers that's kind of like that, but it's with people and connecting with people more. So if someone's looking for something like that, they have that.
The problem with that is, do you ever call someone to chat who isn't expecting it, and they just make you feel like you're a fucking loser?
Yes, I've done that before.
You're hey, what's up? And they're like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I feel that's the problem with shit like that is you have to be okay with people not being ready for it.
Yeah, that's true. I used to do that in 7th grade with girls all the time. I would call them and they did not expect or want me to call them. But you would call landlines, so they didn't have a choice.
That's hilarious.
You would say, you'd get their parents, and you'd say, may I speak with Dana? And they'd say, sure. And,
Dana!
And then the dad or the mom.
It's Frankie!
No, I wouldn't tell them who I was. Because the girl didn't expect me to call.
You had to fucking
and then I would get on the phone with the girl and I would talk to her, and then I would get to school the next day and tell everyone we were dating, and then her friends would come up and be like, just so you know, she doesn't want to talk to you on the phone.
No way.
That happened.
That's insane.
I totally misread
You got shot
situations in
down.
middle school.
Middle school is a tough time, man.
People say that. It was one of my favorite times of my life.
Just getting shot down by chicks on the landline.
I was, but I was also dominating sports in a way that, almost Shaq-esque. I was so much bigger than everybody else at that age that there was nothing anybody could do. Awesome. I want to tell you about this. Go
before
ahead.
we move on.
Yeah.
This reminds me of I friend zoned myself many times in middle school, and it made me think of a good rule to employ. You shouldn't be chatting on the phone with a girl that you've never kissed.
What?
That is unless you don't mind being friend zoned. If you have a crush on a girl, you shouldn't be calling her to chat if you guys have never kissed. Take her on a fucking date. Stop being weak.
I agree with it now that I'm seeing it from your perspective.
Swoop in, put your arm around her, and be like, let's go out. Even if it means fucking hanging out in your basement in your middle school and sitting on opposite ends of the couch or whatever.
And you know what the ultimate friend zone bummer was in middle school that I didn't even acknowledge because I was so head over heels for this girl, Molly?
Dude, my fucking middle school crush was Molly too.
Yeah, I had a big thing for Molly. She went to Greeley, different school, girl across the tracks, Big fan of hers. And we used to talk on the phone all the time, but I could hear the click, clack of her typing on AOL Instant Messenger whilst I was on the phone with her.
Multitasking.
That was a tough pill to swallow, but I did it because I couldn't find my dick. I was, you think that you've got this person's ear. They're giving you 10% of their attention. She was probably talking to 15 other dudes. Yeah,
you're like, it's like crazy. I'm just having trouble. And she's going, uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And you'd be like,
and you're like, right? And she's like, uh-huh.
Yeah, and there's a delay. There's a delay.
Yes.
It's as if you're speaking with somebody in a different country. All right, so Giulio.
Let's hear it.
I wrote a series of tweets as a story, which I posted on my Instagram.
Dude, I thought that the story was true the whole time until
I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read this. This is here's the tweet thread. Feel good story incoming. Every day I pass a homeless man outside the bagel place on 8th Avenue. He never asks for money or food. He just stands there and braves the cold with a warm smile and a God bless for all who pass. One day I brought him an everything bagel with low-fat scallion schmear, toasted. Unwrapping it, his eyes widened and his voice was soft. Toasted? Seriously? The next day, I brought him his bagel untoasted. That's how our friendship began. His name is Sal, and he worked for Jamba Juice before they shuttered the location due to a rodent infestation. Apparently, the mice chewed through the electrical wiring for all the blenders. The corporate bigwigs shut the place down, and Sal was back on the street. As the weeks passed, I learned all about Sal, from the year he filled scuba tanks to the miniature golf course he torched in Boise for insurance payouts. He admitted his faults and said he wasn't a perfect man. Call me a romantic, but I've always believed in second chances. I browsed job websites trying to help my pal Sal back on his feet. He was open to anything that didn't humiliate him. All a man's got is his dignity, he'd say, which isn't profound or even true necessarily. But Sal likes people, so I submitted him for a post at a hardware store. I listed myself as a reference and took a call where I manufactured a few stories about his incredible work ethic and character. But when I told Sal he'd been selected for an interview, he turned his eyes downward and shook his head sadly. He didn't have any nice clothes to wear. I brought him back to my apartment where we picked out some clothes. It was like one of those transformation scenes in a rom-com. My girlfriend said he looked dashing. He gave her a wink. I should have sensed trouble, but I was too excited for Sal. Sal got the job. 2 weeks in, he tackled a shoplifter to the sidewalk and pulled his arm behind his back, snapping his radial bone. But it was pointless. In the fall, the thief impaled his kidney with the stolen flathead screwdriver in his waistband. He died of internal bleeding. Even so, Sal was hailed as a hero and promoted to manager. With his newfound income, Sal bought himself veneers for his teeth and switched to a plant-based diet. He upgraded his wardrobe, but he still hadn't returned the clothes I'd lent him for the interview. The next time I saw my clothes, they were in a heap at the foot of my bed, but I was more focused on the sight of Sal and my girlfriend performing mutual oral. Except he was on top, which you rarely see, so her nose was buried in the wiry, frothing bird's nest of his taint bush. And I'm single now. I've quit carbs completely. Can't even look at a bagel. I've lost a bunch of weight and I have a new outlook. And it's hard to say if I saved Sal or if he saved me. Now,
What a lovely tale.
Giulio, I thank you for letting me read that to its completion.
Certainly.
But here's my question. Why would you have thought that that was a real thing?
Because I until I got to the end. But I thought it was
Fine.
I thought it was real until he like got promoted and shit.
Good. That's fine. You got off at the right exit.
Yeah.
Giulio, how many DMs would you think that I received from people asking me either, is this real, or wishing me well as I recovered from one of the world's most traumatic breakups you could possibly experience? How many people do you think messaged
You
me?
just groomed your successor. I don't know. Hopefully not that many. But was it a lot?
Over 100.
Oh my God. Dude.
Over 100 people weren't sure.
Oh
at worst, weren't sure. Some were sure
Oh, man.
and sad for me.
Well, at least they're nice people. Jesus, dude.
Listen,
That's great.
here's the message, okay? I'm a comedian. Nothing I say is real. I haven't said something real into a microphone on Twitter, on Instagram. I haven't done like I say real things on the podcast, but especially when I'm trying to be funny, which is the majority of the time. This is a comedic podcast. I elevate them from a 2 to an 8. If I feel it at a 2, I elevate it to an 8 for, entertainment purposes. Now, I don't begrudge people for being, I guess, duped, right? You want to believe this tale of transformation of bringing this homeless guy off the street and getting him a job only to find him on the top side of a 69, 96ing, I guess you would call it. But I am astonished that people who know my brand and who know that I'm what I do. I mean, the same thing happened when I wrote the fucking email about swinging my dick all over the place.
Oh yeah. That was great. No, dude, it's true. Like people need to like at some point understand what they're dealing with. You know what I mean? And to be honest, I was happy that it wasn't real because if it were real, it would have been like insane that you were like, I've helped this homeless guy.
Yes.
You know, like the way like when people film themselves giving like school children money, it would have been like the same as that.
Am I listen, I'm not mad at this. I think it's hysterical. And actually, frankly, I love living in a world where people aren't sure. I want to me, that is a place where comedy should live. Where you're dancing along a tightrope of like, is this real? Are some parts of it real? And nobody really knows for sure because that makes people nervous and people laugh more when they're nervous. But having said that, unfortunately, it leaks into other aspects of my life, which, as we've talked about many times before, I get in trouble for. Where, people will take me at face value for things that I say when all I'm really trying to do is be funny.
So I was wondering about this because occasionally you'll like loop your girlfriend in on a tweet. You'll like say something about her and it's like very obvious that you're joking. That you're completely joking.
Yes.
Where you're like, she did this. Or like, I know you have like that, if you want to call it a series, where you're like, she did this today. She did that today. And like, do people ever get mad at you about that? Do you ever get like DMs, people being like, you should be like, that's fucked up or something? I don't know.
Would it be, do you mean someone in defense of my girlfriend?
Right. Like ignoring the kind of the satire aspect and thinking that you're like airing your girlfriend out and like.
Here's the thing. Whenever the vast majority of the time now, whenever I include my girlfriend in a tweet, it's something self-effacing. Right. Like my girlfriend saw me doing this or saw me clipping my toenails or, whatever it is. I try to use her as a foil of goodness against my animalistic, brutish behavior. Because she's so put together and so elegant and so beautiful that, she's the person against whom I see all my monstrous qualities.
And it's a good comparison for comedy's sake, right? Like she's the constant and you're the variable.
Yes.
Like you use her as the comparison for what is normal and then insert your whatever the fuck you're doing.
Exactly.
Right.
Every once in a while, yeah, I guess I'll do that, something that's a little bit meaner, but I don't feel great about it. And you know, I've tried to really get away from that. Dude, my old stand-up it was always about like,
dude, I think
complaining
about this.
Girls I dated or something.
Now that I have some like distance from my comedy and I can kind of like think about my jokes with a fresh mind, I'm probably tossing 60% of my material.
God, yeah.
And I have enough to have like a good whatever amount of time. Like I'm not worried. Like once things get cooking, like I'll be able to go on the road and fill that time again. But like it's also going to be fun writing new shit. You know?
Yeah.
When like I'm not doing it yet, but like when it appears imminent that like long sets of comedy are on the horizon, then, you know, I guess dive back in. We'll see.
Yeah. It's funny we say all this. I actually wrote a stand-up joke the other day.
Really?
That is so mean and so vulgar. And so not true. The joke is I got COVID and lost my sense of taste and smell. So thank God my girlfriend loved it because I was finally able to go down on her.
See? Dude.
Horrible.
See?
Horrible.
Thank you. You were acting like I was crazy for being like, when you shit on your girlfriend,
No,
you
I mean,
mad. You're like, I don't do that.
I won't even bring that to the stage because it's disgusting, not true, and you know, fucking it's juvenile. We have graduated past that line of thinking, that low-hanging fruit. And even if we can't replace it with better jokes, we know better than to mine that field.
Mm.
Whereas when you first start out, that's all you got.
Right.
I was fucking this chick the other day.
Yeah, you think about what are they going to think is cool and funny as opposed to like, what do I think is funny?
Yeah.
What do I think is funny gets you to that.
Exactly.
Well, dude, I had a funny idea for a thing that I want to bring up. So I was reading the story and I was like, wow, that's incredible. So I think that this is the thing that I'd like to bring up if we can find more of them, you know, in the future. If you guys have any good ones, send them to us. But this I would like to call the stupidest criminals. I read a great story about a guy in Louisiana. And I don't know if you heard this story.
No, I don't
but
know that I have.
he raped his cousin.
Oh, God.
And she was going to testify against him. So he's like, I need to have her killed because I don't want to go to jail. So he hires these two guys to kill her. And they kind of try once, I guess, and it doesn't work out. I don't know what happened that time. But the second time, they like go to her house and this somebody else answers the door, her sister. And they're like, are you so-and-so? And she knew they were looking for her. So she said, yes. So they killed her.
Oh, God.
And then they killed some other lady too. And they didn't even kill the person they were trying to kill.
What is happening here? Where are we going?
That's it.
What a lovely, lighthearted tale. Why did you bring this up?
Dude, I just thought that was the stupidest crime I've ever heard of. Like, if you're
it's a nightmare.
If you're gonna kill,
you shared a nightmare with us.
If you're gonna kill her, right?
Oh my God. Oh, I appreciate you making everyone forget about that cunnilingus joke I just told. That's long gone.
Just one-upping ourselves. But dude, listen, I don't know. Like,
you're like, I got something. Rape, murder, kill the right person.
Dude, that's just that's a stupid crime, in my opinion, man. I don't know.
Yes, it is a stupid crime. I have to wonder, like maybe those guys would have had a better ability to find the right target if they had worn their bird dog's pants. If they had worn their bird dog's pants, if they had worn them, they might have had the wherewithal to get the right person. When
you're hired to kill someone, you need to make sure that you can escape swiftly and comfortably.
That's right.
And not look like you're wearing suspect clothing.
Yeah. You can't be identified by the fact that you're wearing underwear and pants, because the bird dog's pants have a built-in liner that's discreet and nondescript, and nobody will be able to track you down or pick you out of a lineup.
You won't sweat through the ass. You know what I mean? Like, if you get caught running away, what are you doing wearing shorts?
That's right. And the thing about the bird dogs too is that if you use promo code OOPS right now, birddogs.com, you'll get a pair of nunchucks.
Yes.
which nunchucks are a far better, I think, weapon to try to kill someone with, because if you start trying to kill them and they're like, hang on, I was just kidding, I'm not actually that person, you have time to stop, right?
Totally.
Before you go all the way.
And dude, it's also a great way to put your stamp on a murder. You know what I mean? The person's hanging on, and it's like in Mortal Kombat when they're wavering, it's like, finish him.
Yeah.
And then you fucking take him down with the nunchucks, and then you become the nunchuck killer.
Yeah.
The nunchuck killer strikes again.
The nunchuck killer. You got private investigators standing at the crime scene, smoking a cigarette, going, it looks like they were killed with not one but 2 clubs. And they might possibly have been connected via a small chain.
There I was, checking into another motel.
Yeah.
I still hadn't found the killer.
It's great. It's great. Smoky guy noir.
Bird Dog's pants.
Bird Dog's pants. Birddogs.com, promo code OOPS. Get your pair of nunchucks with your first order. Go there now. That was good stuff, dude.
Sorry that I just fucking read the room wrong there.
I have a question for you, because this is something I've been thinking about.
Sure.
Arson.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Arson. You know something about
Arson. That's my nickname.
Arson is an interesting crime to me, right? Because arson gets its own name as a crime, right?
Yeah.
But all it really is lighting something on fire.
Right.
And you think about the other crimes, the other big crimes that have their own word, right? Murder, theft, burglary, whatever,
extortion,
kidnapping, rape. These are all big crimes, right? But arson, does it really deserve its own word? Like, why is setting a fire,
lighting shit on fire?
There's no pleasant way to thieve. There's no other side of thievery or murder where it could just happen on a camping trip and everyone would enjoy themselves around it.
But there is, though, and I'll tell you why. Because I was charged with a lower degree of arson, the same way that like manslaughter exists for murder. Like you didn't mean to do it. But I guess it's also not called murder then. It's called manslaughter. Right? I don't really know. But there are definitely different tiers that are like, there's a felony, there's a misdemeanor tier. If you're like lighting shit on fire on purpose, 1st degree arson. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this. Do the tiers of arson change based on how much damage you do to the thing you burned?
It's a good question, Francis. And the answer is yes. So the way that I understand it, like for example, if I came to your house and burned it down on purpose, I think that's like a much higher level if you can prove that, right? And then the same way, like if you're burning it for insurance, like our buddy Sal.
Yes.
Sal, the fake homeless person.
Sal, the Jamba Juice.
So I think those are like 2 top tiers. But then I think so the next tier down, if you do it by accident, but you damage someone's shit, if you accidentally start a fire carelessly and burn down someone's house, that's a much bigger, like a higher degree of arson than if you start a fire and no property gets damaged.
Okay, but
which I learned because they told me they're like, you're really lucky that you didn't burn down anyone's house, or you would have been fucked. They're like, your life would be over.
Okay, I see. So yeah, there's premeditated arson. There's accidental arson. By the way, you mentioned murder and manslaughter. I've never understood why manslaughter is the lesser of the two. The term manslaughter to me sounds so much worse.
It sounds like ethnic cleansing.
I didn't murder anyone. I just slaughtered a man.
I slaughtered the entire race of man.
Sounds like you went through a sheep herd with a scythe and just gutted everything.
The lambs, Clarice, the lambs.
So, man, I don't know. Crimes are fascinating to me. Arson's one where I'm not sure why I brought that point up, but I guess it's just really the terminology that I can't get my head around.
Yeah.
I don't think that arson deserves its own term. I think it should just be like fire starter. Right. He fired it up. This guy lit a big fire. We're going to get it. What do you mean he lit a big fire? Oh, he burned a house down. Fine. Right. Understood.
I think racketeering to me is a similar.
What's racketeering? Racketeering is mob shit.
I think it's just like doing illegal shit, right? Like, what is it again?
Is it
Chris,
stealing?
This up for us? I always forget what the specific.
Truckloads of booze.
I think it's more vague. I think that's bootlegging.
Oh, maybe racketeering. Can I have another guess, Chris, before you tell us? Racketeering, might it have something to do with stealing government property?
I don't think so.
No.
What do we got, Chris?
They're running a racket.
Examples of racketeering include criminal operations such as illegal gambling, prostitution rings, drug trafficking, counterfeiting, embezzlement, and extortion.
But to your point, like it sounds like meaning like in a mob setting, like an organized way of doing those things.
Well, you mob people seem to be the only ones who ever really get charged with racketeering.
Right. And these are all, illegal businesses.
Yeah.
So let's assume that that's what it means.
So it's maybe organized business that's illegal.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. They're running a racket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, what's up?
Here it says at the end, such activities can have devastating consequences for both public and private institutions. So, like a
Yeah.
What?
No, I get you. I get
it's
what
like
you
a
mean.
group thing.
Right.
That's what I meant by reading that.
I wrote Arson here to talk about that, by the way. That was something I wanted to talk about.
Dude, great. That's a great one.
Let me bring us into something more positive really quickly.
Great.
Because we've
we've taken the
let's buy the dip here. Ride this podcast.
Buy the dip, baby.
All the way to the moon.
Buy the dip.
All right, so here's something I realized. We've talked about this before. We've talked about when you or your girlfriend or significant other goes away for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And how nice it is to sort of sleep in the middle of the bed and all the things of being alone. The thing I haven't really talked about, which is, I think, a very important thing, is it's really nice to miss somebody.
Yeah.
I think missing somebody, if you've ever wondered if you love somebody, missing them is the clearest sign that you love somebody.
Couldn't agree more.
It's the clearest sign. Because when you're with the person that you think you love, right, it's very easy to conflate feelings of lust or even envy with being evidence that you love that person, right?
Yes.
But some of those things can kind of be fleeting or elements of the flesh or whatever it is, instincts and hormonal. Missing somebody when they're not with you and thinking about, like, I wonder what they're doing. I wish they were back here. My life would be better if they were here with me. That, to me, is the clearest sign that you love somebody. And it's really nice to feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to Florida
Mm-hmm.
for the weekend.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that. Finish your point, but then I want to hear about it.
All right, the point is that when I left for Florida on the heels of a week where I had just been a little grumpy, and I wasn't really I wasn't that fun to be around. As you had talked about the pandemic wall, as I put it to people, I felt like I had just been staring at a gray wall for 3 months. I needed to look at something different. I needed to look at the ocean or palm trees or green or some sand, any of that stuff. I needed something.
Yeah, totally.
I needed a different set in front of me. And it was very restorative.
It's the most restorative thing in the world. Getting a change of scenery, it just fucking opens your brain up.
Yeah.
And you just can think and reflect, and it's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And it was great. Spent some time with my parents. And then I was supposed to come home on Monday, but I fortunately saw the weather report early enough that I was able to change my flight to Sunday. That was
a pro move, dude.
I changed it, dude. I changed it, and I got on a 3:00 flight on Sunday. I landed at 7 p.m. I have to think that if I had been an hour or 2 hours later, I would have been in Florida the whole week.
Yeah, totally, dude.
And it's just one of those rare moments in life where you're like, boy, I got out.
I got out.
Like the president in Independence Day.
Yeah.
Right before everything exploded.
Dude, I think about that moment in that movie all the time where he goes, everybody's leaving New York. What are the only schmucks trying to get in? Remember that scene? They're like driving back into the fucking, I don't know. That movie does not hold up, by the way.
Does it not?
Have you watched it recently?
No.
No offense to anybody who loves that movie. That movie sucks. Dude, it was my favorite movie as a child.
I watched it so many times.
I owned the VHS with the reflective cover.
Mm-hmm.
I loved
FBI
it.
warning.
Dude, Will Smith has 15 of the worst lines of dialogue in the history of cinema. I'm out here walking through this desert. what the hell is that smell? Like, as he's like dragging, dude, there's some like bad moments.
Welcome to Earth.
Welcome, punches him, welcome to Earth.
Punches
terrible.
the alien.
Welcome to Earth.
Yeah.
Harry Connick Jr.'s in it. What the fuck is that all about?
Oh, yeah.
And dude, the special effects are terrible.
Yep. But at the time,
it was the best movie ever made.
Best movie ever made. So,
but missing someone.
Well, let me tell you, I got to tell you this too. Right. Going to Florida, right? I had not traveled on an airplane in what felt like a very, very long time. And traveling is a little bit like getting in shape, right? When you've jogged 3 of the last 7 days, putting your running shoes on, throwing on your headphones,
ain't shit.
Going for a run, not that big of a deal, right?
Totally.
Your body is accustomed to it. Maybe you even look forward to it a little bit, whatever. You know the routine, you know how to get through it. But when you have not traveled on an airplane in months, the process of getting in an Uber from my apartment in Brooklyn all the way to Newark, right, where I got car sick because I forgot that I can't look at my phone when I'm in an Uber.
That's the worst.
Right? So there's 0 for 1. Right? I get out, I get to the security, and I go, for some reason TSA pre-check wasn't.
Oh God.
Oh, that line was closed. So I was
it because there was no one there?
I don't know what it was,
That's
man.
annoying.
But I went through all these random people, and a lot of people who just didn't seem to care much about keeping any kind of 6-foot buffer between us.
Yeah.
So I'm nervous, right? Because I'm going to see my parents,
right?
And I'm now in a line with all these random people.
And dude, I mean, like people are getting it a lot. Like I know a bunch of friends who are getting it. Like obviously that's obvious, but just like in my circles too,
right.
Like everybody's getting it. So I understand why you're nervous.
So I did that, and then I get there, and for the first time in all the flights that I've taken since COVID started, there was a little bit of a delay. They had some kind of check engine light on the airplane had come on, and they were like, "We're seeing what it's about." How are we at a point where a light comes on the plane and they don't even know what it means? Like I understand that with a car, you see check engine, you're like, fuck it, I got 400 more miles. That's probably nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing.
But an airplane, I mean, I appreciate that they're investigating it, but I would have thought that we'd have machinery that can be a little bit more specific about what is ailing it.
Was the feeling of flying itself kind of like jarring after a big break?
Yes. Yeah. A little bit of turbulence spooked
it
me
spooks
more.
You more. Totally.
Spooks you more. And secondly, in the rush to pack and get out the door, I left my book and I had intentionally not downloaded any movies or TV shows onto my phone or my laptop. So to force myself to read my book, which meant that when I got on the plane, for 2.5 hours, I had to zone out.
You had nothing to do. That's a bummer.
And zoning out when you're a crazy person like I am is really hard. There's no zoning. There's no pleasant zoning out where you just wake up, you got a little bit of drool. You're like, I've just been.
Yeah.
And this was the last 45 minutes ago.
You would have never forgotten your book, a year ago.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I was so. Plus, you can't talk to the person next to you. Nobody talks to each other on airplanes anymore. And I don't know if that's masks. The guy next to me wearing 2 masks.
Was there someone next to you?
Yeah, next to me.
Interesting.
Plane was pretty full, dude.
Interesting.
Really full.
That's not ideal.
He's wearing 2 masks and the windshield eye visor.
Oh.
So that guy does not want to be spoken to.
That guy.
We're not exchanging pleasantries. I'm not finding out that he works for IBM. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're
not banging him.
If he splits 6s against a 4.
Do you usually talk to the person next to you?
If I got nothing and they got nothing, maybe I will, especially if they're a young person.
Yeah.
Maybe I will. So, 2.5 hours of nothing. That sucked. Then I got there, had to take an Uber to my parents' place, which was another 1.5 hour Uber.
Jesus.
On highways. They didn't want to come pick me up because of COVID. And so I got to the house, and that whole, all that traveling felt like I was coming home from China, man.
Yeah.
Or Europe. It was not as easy as it usually is.
What is coming home from China like?
Oh God.
Is it a tough readjustment? I've never gone that far east before.
Australia was way worse.
Interesting.
But they're both really bad.
Yeah,
they're both
sure.
really bad because
Like life altering.
going there is no problem.
Right. That
For
makes
some
sense.
reason, going there is no problem. Coming back once you've adjusted to their time zone, dude, coming back
just fucks you up.
there's nothing you can do. Life sucks for me for 2.5 weeks. It
Holy
sucked.
shit.
I would be waking up at 3 a.m, and I'm talking waking up as if I had slept 100 hours.
Yeah.
I would sit up out of bed ready to do burpees.
That's crazy.
It was as if because your body thinks you've taken a power nap in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
It's not. That was a night's sleep. And so you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're wide awake. And then you're wide awake. And then at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. in the afternoon, you hit the hardest wall
of your life.
of fatigue you've ever fucking hit.
It feels like it's 4 a.m. and you're just trying to like do your normal shit. That's crazy, dude.
And so you're trying to inch that forward an hour or 45 minutes every day, but it's a blinding wall of fatigue, and there's no amount of sleep pills or marijuana or drinking that could really shake you out of it until finally one day you're
You're fine.
kind of there. You turn the
Yeah,
corner.
Yeah.
But it's hell, dude.
Dude, that's crazy. So, dude, I had a thought about the missing your girlfriend.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, good.
So it's interesting. People ask me sometimes if it's like hard to have a relationship given my lifestyle.
Mm.
You know, a combination of, you know, having to travel for work, and like before the pandemic started, I was on the road quite a bit, as were you. And not to mention just my general kind of like wanderlust, like if you want to call it. Like I bounce around a lot, right? And the people assume that would be a thing that would make a relationship difficult. But in my opinion, it makes a relationship stronger because of what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like I'm constantly fucking missing my girlfriend because I'm always going somewhere.
Yeah.
It makes it just like feel fresh all the time.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
So yeah, if in case anybody was wondering that is what I say. I feel like that forced, you know, occasional distance really makes our relationship really strong. She travels a lot too.
So, any updates on the
sure.
old cohabitation front?
So we're looking. It's a little early based on when we want to start our lease. So we've kind of run into some roadblocks with that. But I had called you yesterday about the fact that they were giving us a hard time about certain things, and they ended up approving us without us having to like take another
Oh,
step.
that's great.
It was just the broker trying to like cover her bases to give them the best possible whatever.
That's what I said.
But it's
I thought it was.
yeah. But dude, it's amazing. That is what you said. It's amazing how apartments are kind of like dating in middle school, where like you think you're gonna lose the apartment, and all of a sudden you think you want the apartment so bad, and then you get it, and you realize you don't want it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's this like availability thing. So now it's like so early in the game. This apartment's nice, but they're offering all these concessions, like months free. And the problem with the months free thing is, you know, you get 3 months off, and then the next year you're paying more than you can afford, or you're spending what that net effective difference was moving because you can't afford it.
So here's what I would advise you to do. I would advise you, instead of doing 3-4 months free on the first year of the lease. By the way, the reason that New York landlords and owners are advocating for free months of rent as concessions as opposed to lowering the rent is that as long as they give you those free months of rent,
So they don't have to lower the price.
and then they can still list the property as having rented for the original asking price,
Right.
which means that going forward, you know,
Right.
the property retains its value.
they don't and also you fuck the market up by like renting those apartments for
Yeah.
lower, you know?
The fact that we rented this place for as little as we did means that this guy who owns it can't sell it for a while.
So dude, that is an important thing that we've been thinking about. Dealing with a person who's the owner of the unit as opposed to dealing with some fucking management company.
Yes, but the places where you're getting the best concessions are buildings that have tons of inventory.
Right.
So,
right.
like-
but it depends. It's pick your poison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like you said, the 3 months free thing can fuck you.
Okay, but here's what I would advise you.
Right.
try to do a 2-year lease with 2 months free on the first year,
They
2
wouldn't
months
do it.
free on the second year.
They wouldn't let us do it.
Then walk
Right.
away.
I know, and that's what we're doing.
You will find something, dude.
Right.
It is a golden land
I
of
know.
opportunity for renters.
And dude,
right now.
we've started so early. Like I'm very optimistic about.
Yes, but having said that, it's not always going to be like, oh my God, we're waiting for the great choice. You know, you might not find the perfect
of
thing,
course.
right?
You never will.
We feel like we did.
You
but-
probably did.
but-
this apartment is sick. But your guys have a better budget than we do, I think.
Well, yeah, but whatever it is, even with my old place, which I loved,
Right.
there were issues there.
Right.
You know, real problems like the backyard, as sick as it looked, was like the most mosquito infested breeding ground. It was like Vietnam. What is this, Japan? I don't know if Japan has a big mosquito problem.
I was hoping for one of those.
Probably shouldn't say that Vietnam and Japan have a lot in common. I don't think they do. But but yes, but there were so many mosquitoes that it was almost unusable.
Yeah.
And you know, then there were the heating issues were horrific.
Mm-hmm.
The temperature was terrible. So you find things out. You find flaws and
Yeah.
faults
You find them eventually.
everywhere.
Let me ask you this. Today we looked at one of the sickest apartments I've ever been in.
Ooh,
Dude,
I
it
like the
was
sound of
it was
that.
so sick. And like the guy who owned it, he did a bunch of dope shit to it that just like, not only was it stuff that made it cool and unique, but it was stuff that made it cool and unique for us.
Mm.
It was gorgeous. We loved it, but it was on literally one of the worst blocks in the city.
That's the way it goes.
In the core city. Like, let's take the sort of like quote unquote bad neighborhoods out of the equation. And this is just maybe one of the worst blocks you can live on.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, like, what are your thoughts on that?
All right. So the first thing is you travel a lot.
I do.
So how often are you home?
So, dude, that's the thing. I don't really care that much about like, and we're having problems a little bit because of this. Because she's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's great." And she's like, what do you really think?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, I don't fucking know what I think. Like, I think whatever you think. Like, if you love it, I'll do it." And she's like, "Well, I want to know what you think so I can know what I think." So we both think the same way in that capacity. But I just know that she knows better than me. So I'm just like willing to let her do it. But then it comes off as me being lazy, which I'm not. But like, so whatever. So it's this whole thing. So I don't actually know, man. But I do know that I hate the neighborhood. And I think that the neighborhood is a deal breaker for me.
Okay. That's then say that. You have
Right.
the right to say
I
that.
ended up finally coming to that. Actually, when I entered your apartment today,
Oh.
I realized that after we talked for like a second, I was like, okay,
Yeah. Look, I had said when we started our process of looking that I really cared about staying in Manhattan. And my girlfriend was like, "Well, okay, you know, but maybe we should." And for a while, we were only looking in Manhattan, and we just weren't finding great stuff. And then we expanded our search, and I did it almost to humor her, even though I intended to keep putting my foot down, saying that was my one criteria, that I really wanted to stay in Manhattan. But we found this place, and then it was like, all right, I mean, we're never going to find anything remotely like this in Manhattan
right.
that is within, spitting distance of our budget. So as soon as they came down, it was like game over. And I can tell you that when your apartment is super sick, the neighborhood sort of fades away.
Right.
And you spend, especially now.
This is also a good neighborhood. Let me just,
It is. It's not bad.
I would argue that it's good. You don't think it's good, a good neighborhood?
There's no like there's no good grocery
Right.
store.
It's not the best neighborhood in the world,
we rely on grocery stores
Right,
a
right,
lot, and
right.
there's none that we can really use.
Right. There's like a 30-minute walk Trader Joe's.
Yeah, it's a long. We have to get in a car to go
Yeah,
get our groceries, or we get them delivered. In which case, we don't get the avocados that we've felt ourselves at the store. We haven't felt the firmness. They've just been selected by some moron who just sees 4 avocados and picks them up and puts them in a bag. And it's like, those aren't the avocados we would have wanted. Of course not. You didn't even do any kind of a squeeze test. Are you kidding me? 4 avocados of exactly the same ripeness, which means that we have to eat them faster.
The sliding scale of avocados.
When I select avocados, I pick 4. Yes, exactly. It's a graduating scale.
You want one for each day
of firmness so that they arrive at the proper ripeness at the right time. And you start with the ripest one. You eat that first, then you go down the line. Anyway.
What about Wegmans? That's like...
So Wegmans is an option.
Is that not walking distance? So that's like 15 minutes.
It's 15 minutes.
Too far. So.
Walking with your arms laden with grocery bags is not fun. It's farmer's. It's a fucking CrossFit workout.
Yeah.
It's like a kettlebell farmer's carry.
Literally.
And they rip exactly. So that is an issue. But beyond that, there aren't really great restaurants here. There aren't many restaurant options here.
There's a few.
There's a couple. Once everything opens up, we will
though.
Get sick of the options quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the second thing. The third thing, and these are very New York considerations. You're limited in your delivery options, and we don't get food delivered all that often. But there aren't, some of our favorite.
But this is your point. Like you have to concede something.
You do,
no matter what.
You do.
Yeah.
You absolutely do. And then finally, dude, transportation to and from the city. Right now, the F train is under construction. That's our only subway, really. And on the weekends, it doesn't even fucking run, dude.
Yeah. You have to walk 20 minutes again.
And you got to get to High Street, and it's a long way.
Yeah.
So, concessions, absolutely. But the apartment was too sick to pass up. And I have to say that, especially now, we both work from home. We're spending the majority of our time here. Choosing the best place you can get was the right choice for us.
Yeah.
But for you guys, if you're not planning to spend as much time there, if you both travel a lot, I don't know, man. It's amazing to look at like all these people I know who basically are willing to live in shoe boxes because they care so much about living the West Village.
I know, dude. I know.
And it's like, what are you doing?
That's so dumb. Yeah.
How much would you have to love the show Sex in the City to want to be Carrie Bradshaw that you have to live on Perry Street,
Yeah.
I never understood that.
I know.
But
whatever.
All right, I just steamrolled the last 10 minutes
good,
here.
Man. Oops, the podcast. Don't forget to tell someone to fuck off this week.
Yeah.
That's important.
And don't read your phone for the first 20 minutes of your day. Get some things done first.
Yes.
Get moving.
And also, the Pack Light is out. Finally. Check it out. It's pretty awesome. Really psyched about it. Chris produced it.
That's Giulio's travel podcast. Check it out.
It's produced. It'll make you feel nice and zen listening to it. I think you'll enjoy it. So check it out.
Lovely. Follow our YouTube. Send us emails. oopsthepodcast@gmail.com. I'm Francis. He is Giulio, and we will see you soon. Thanks, guys. Thank you for watching that video. If you liked it, there are plenty more where that came from. Click on this link, and also please like and subscribe our YouTube channel.